지방이 싫어 그래서 차보도
So then in the sessions yesterday we had a very detailed and exhaustive discussion about the perfection of concentration, and now from today onwards we will begin to discuss the sixth perfection, which is the perfection of wisdom. And now this topic is particularly a little bit difficult, and but this is not to say that it is not we will not discuss this in detail, but we need to know that it is a particularly difficult topic to understand at the outset. So then moving on with the root text, we are at the 33rd verse. It reads, wisdom is the eye that sees the profound suchness. It's the path eradicating cyclic existence from its very root. So then if we want to know the nature of reality, suchness herein referring to emptiness, which is from the Buddhist perspective the nature of reality of all phenomena. So if one wants to engage emptiness or the nature of reality or suchness, then one cannot do without wisdom or the cultivation of wisdom of emptiness. And then it's the path eradicating cyclic existence from its very root. So at the very root of samsara is this ignorance, and from which arises attachment, aversion, and all the subsequent afflictions. So then when one begins to engage in the path of cultivating wisdom, then one begins to cut samsaric existence from its very root, because it begins to overcome or eradicate ignorance from its very root. Yes. So then the next two lines in the 33rd verse, it's a treasury of higher qualities that are praised in all scriptures. It is known as the supreme lamp dispelling the darkness of delusion. So herein classical metaphors such as treasury as well as the supreme lamp is being used to describe the quality of this cultivation of wisdom. So then the first of these two metaphors classical textual sources, then it is explained that the cultivation of wisdom gives rise to all the subsequent realizations as well as the qualities. So this is why this metaphor is being used. It's a treasury of higher qualities that are praised in all scriptures. So we can understand it as the cultivation of wisdom is the basis upon which one begins to achieve realizations and one begins to gain all these qualities, higher qualities. And then it's known as the supreme lamp dispelling the darkness of delusion. So herein the metaphor is the lamp dispelling the darkness of delusion. So when one begins to cultivate the perfection of wisdom, then one begins to be free from the darkness of delusion such as ignorance and so forth. So this is why the metaphor that is used here is the supreme lamp. And these two kind of indicate the quality of the cultivation of wisdom as a perfection. Yes. So then, moving on, the 34th verse, knowing this, the learned ones who aspire for liberation endeavor with multiple efforts to cultivate this path. I, a yogi, have practiced in this manner. You who aspire for liberation too should do likewise. So tying in to the points that are made in the 33rd verse, wherein we begin to realize the entity or the nature of this wisdom and the quality of cultivating this wisdom, such as wisdom being the eye that sees the profound suchness, which is the nature of reality itself, and how it eradicates or cuts samsaric existence from its very root, and how it is the basis upon which we begin to gain all these qualities, and how it is like a lamp which begins to dispel the darkness of delusion. So knowing these qualities, then the learned ones, the supreme beings, concert all their efforts in order to cultivate such a path which gives rise to this wisdom, whether it be through study, contemplation, meditation, whether it be through consulting or one's own teachers in moments of doubt and so forth. So they kind of put in all their efforts to cultivate this path of realizing this wisdom. So I, a yogi, referring to the author himself, Jitsongkhapa, have practiced in this manner. You who aspire for liberation too should do likewise.
nenjochi is ende yundambe nyambar shawa da kada tongwani da nyamba shawa da ola gaula di ola mani di kada shine da ngalo da mo shiga da zukura shira ende na nyamsha nanki nenjochi ende yani yundamba nyamba shawa ani ende nanki nenjochi 타다 냠이 된줄 알아요. nenjochi is 내 share passion to was da 내 share passion to was so 런줄래 아니 저도 저와 되게 아니 신경 쇼스라
신장송을
신장
yes. So then from the Guru Puja then it goes on to describe the perfection of wisdom in this manner that cultivating this path cultivating this path in order to realize this suchness, which is emptiness itself. Then one begins to acquire qualities. One begins to achieve bliss as well as suppleness or pliancy of both body and mind. When one begins to abide in the ultimate meditative equipoise of meditating on the ultimate nature of reality, which is emptiness, emptiness itself. And then the practitioner assumes, the meditative practitioner assumes qualities which are expansive as the sky itself, in the form of being a yogi at that point. Yes. Dadi lama chabarandra. Chinju. Di enjojik soya chore. Yelale di enjojik soya chore. So then, from another classical textual presentation from A Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life by Shantideva, then he goes on to say that from all these cultivation of from the cultivation of all these different branches, herein these different branches referring to the five first perfections, then one begins to develop the wisdom of hearing and hearing, and from here forwards one begins to cultivate the wisdom of contemplation on emptiness, which can pacify or overcome suffering from its root. Tuba. Tuba suma mara. So then I made a mistake in the translation, wherein it's not the wisdom of hearing. Herein it is said by the Buddha himself that in order to overcome or pacify suffering from its root, then the Buddha taught about the perfection of wisdom itself. Deva. Yes.
상당 집어로 채기라 그때 직접도 말하러 근데 단단히 못 봐고 해도 집어로 와 다들 이유가 아니 이거는 단단히 간다 세지 3대 와 세지 3대인데 먼저 가서 3대 시에 3대 리페이트 유지를 봐 세지를 양바샤야 되는데 샤라 다 세지 3대 정말 고아이 세상에 3대 집고 가면 보면 되어 있나 아니 3대 고매 요만도 오마다 3대는 고매 있는 근데 왜 3대 집고지기 나도 퀄리티 말해서 그래서 세지 3대 정말 고아이 자와 집이 누가 마통시 인사되게 세배 자와게 죽는 지지디 아니 근데 3대 집고지도 그랬어 봐 세상에 근데 아 3대 가면 쉬어 말도 요만 라고 말해 너 이거 담아야 뭔가 팬통어라 무슨 데 가로 생기 차단 모습 시간에 수저 나오는 것들 삼대는 고마이나 생도 딱받스레도 아니 가리가리 아까도 싫어 뭐라 그래도 돼요 제가 삼대 찍고 보면 거기가 저 주트버리 얘기 통보는 무엇이라 그래도 그럼 타지에 말아
So then moving on, the 35th was, in a mere one-pointed concentration, I fail to see the potency to cut the root of cyclic existence. So herein, when it says in a mere one-pointed concentration, in the cultivation of concentration is a perfection in itself, I fail to see the potency to cut the root of cyclic existence. So this is not to say that the cultivation of concentration as a perfection in itself is not important. One needs to first cultivate the perfection of concentration in order to develop clarity and stability in the mind, and then one can begin to progress towards the cultivation of wisdom as a practice. But in simply cultivating one-pointed concentration would not cut samsaric existence from its root. Yes. So then the next two lines, yet with wisdom devoid of the path of triangle abiding, no matter how much one may probe, the afflictions will not be overcome. So then similarly, then if we begin to carry on analysis without cultivating concentration or single one-pointed concentration in our meditative practices, then afflictions cannot be overcome from their root. So it is compared to a bird. If a bird wants to fly across the river to the other side, then it needs both wings to fly across the river. So similarly, you need both wisdom as well as one-pointed concentration in order to go across, in a sense, in order to achieve liberation or overcome afflictions from their very roots.
다 근데 이디가 딱 하려고 일루 프로타 취비에서 실은 일루 프로타 취비를 이네 이미 많이 들어 일루 타도 진행이다 단단히 의미 따와도 보고라 근데 직남주 집이 실업이에서 일루 프로타는 집이 실업이에서 네 가르치고는 요함이 봐 때문에 그가라가 사도 지내다 사동도 상대도 들어오라 근데 이게 아니 요함이 신이 근데 이거 좀 시원해요 신내디 가서 따로 배셔 따로 봐 나중에 좀 미지 따시는 거 아니 가게 에서도 들고 그래서 뭐라다 가라이면 그 신내라 봐 제가 근데 이 실업이 따로 신는 줘봐이나 아니 소리에 고서 따로 들고 신경에는 들들다 요미 신내 따라 줄이니 에서라 줄이니 아니 다들 딱 근데 왜 실업이 신내게 따라 신내 가르쳐 보려나 아니 타텔 타이다 저와다 아주 다다다 지도 성능이라 오 근데 타다 제위에 의미 umabay tawala ummi ribe seneji sen샤는 거라 sen샤라기 가리 제바다 또 받는 진이 자고라 저들면 가리 나다 직파 제게 한 정도 게지라 근데 이 실라 실라 선조스 제와 이나라 아니 한제인 하나 직탄제네 그 뭐다 단제나 덴제나 다 한다 지요라 타이즈 문제 잡아줘라 근데 탄제 미디 탄제 수수기 미세기 제된 탄제다 내밀도 따고 또 두고 내다고 그다음에 되더라 단제 미디 탐지 집을 집을 근데 미디 나가서 지금 젠데 참아 다시도 또 매번 하고 라 어디 디시도 그래서
Yes. So then, moving on. So this wisdom decisively penetrating the true mode of being, the learned ones steadily astride the horse of unwavering calm abiding, and with the sharp weapon of reasoning of the middle way, free of extremes, they dismantle all locus of objectification of the mind, grasping at extremes. So then, this is the importance of not just cultivating single-pointed concentration, or not just cultivating the perfection of wisdom, or perfection of wisdom. Now, there needs to be a union of the two in order to really penetrate the true mode of being, emptiness, or the nature of reality itself. So this wisdom, decisively penetrating the true mode of being, it should, so herein the metaphor that is being used is a horse. The horse herein refers to calm abiding, or or shamatha, the shamatha meditative practice. So then one should now combine both special insight meditative practices with the calm abiding practice of shamatha, in order to get at a true understanding of the nature of reality, which is free from extreme conceptions of permanence or nihilism. And if one begins to do this, then our minds begin to be free from grasping at extremes such as self-grasping, such as grasping at objects or phenomena as truly being existent.
제가 내일 안에 세신 주비에서라 세신 주비 양비 시랍지에서 세신 주바라 이거 답변은 이미 내일 인지 시랍과 세신 주비에서 양반의 이거 지난 시작처럼 이거 하고 빙서 내실 보고가 양비 시랍지 내일 시랍이 가르치 모르시나 애니 똑바르다 텐데 공부하는데 우리 따와서 봐라 아니 또 비에서 로드 제번제에서 근데 시랍이 아니 지금 보나니 또 봐봐 근데 이게 수술 로드 리반 로드에 제번라 제번제요에서 제가 근데 인상 안에 내중에 대한 근데 이제 다니시 뭐야 아니 근데 이 매칭이 답을 되는 이유 그래서 지난주에 그냥 방송으로서라
So then, the 37th verse, with such expensive wisdom that probes with precision, the learned ones enhance the wisdom realizing the suchness, I, a yogi, have practiced in this manner. You who aspire for liberation too should do likewise. So then this wisdom, this cultivation of wisdom, this expansive wisdom which decisively understands the nature of reality as being empty of inherent or intrinsic existence, then the learned ones, the supreme ones, have always strived to cultivate the realization of this wisdom of emptiness. I, a yogi, have practiced in this manner. You who aspire for liberation too should do likewise. Yes. So then, moving on, what need is there to say that through one-pointed cultivation, absorption is realized, through discriminative awareness, probing with precision as well, one can abide unwavering and utterly stable upon the true mode of being. So herein, it kind of makes the point that when one begins to engage, phenomena or existence upon the realization of emptiness, then one does it, or one comes to such an engagement through the union of both special insight, which is wisdom, and one-pointed concentration, which is shamatha. Yes. So, moving on, wondrous are those who see this and strive for the union of abiding and insight. I, a yogi, have practiced in this manner. You who aspire for liberation too should do likewise. So then, taking into account all the points that were made before, then wondrous are those learned ones who see this and strive for the union of abiding, one-pointed concentration or shamatha, and insight, vipassana, or the wisdom of emptiness itself. So wondrous are those who see all these qualities and the importance of cultivation the importance of cultivating wisdom in this manner and engaging reality in this manner. So wondrous are those who see this and strive for the union of both shamatha and vipassana. I, a yogi, have practiced in this manner. You who aspire for liberation too should do likewise. Yes.
다리 통해야 되는 수 때문에 안 되는 데서 수 아까 내기 뒤다 이마에 빼다 빼는 사람도 오더라 디자인 뒤에 간대로 시기인데 수술 아주 그거 빼디 왜 대가 되는 순간 캐바디기 돼 순간 하게 돼 순간 대바 장치고 수술 상담이 그래서 내가 이거 가다가 나도 수술 좀 돌아가는 상담 패키지 봐.
So then this is the kind of presentation on the cultivation of wisdom and the importance of the union of both special insight and calm abiding or one-pointed concentration. And so, but it is important not just to leave it at that, the presentation in the root text itself. It is important to kind of think about these things on your own. So if we just leave it at that, then we only begin to leave it just at that, just hearing the teaching or reading it. So we need to also begin to contemplate on the points that are being made in the root text, and we need to try to relate it to our own experiences rather than just keeping it at that, because this in the root text, the metaphors that are being used are very classical in their nature. So we need to try to relate it to our own experiences, and then begin to contemplate on the instructions in the text. Yes. So then, in these instructions in the root text highlights the importance of the union of both the union of both special insight and calm abiding. So from herein we can understand that generally there are people who dedicate their efforts in cultivating one-pointed concentration by meditating with the shamatha techniques, and then there are many people who kind of engage in the study of scriptures and contemplate on the study of the scriptures by debating, and then this follows a more analytical approach to develop wisdom. So then when we see these two different approaches, then it's important to not kind of belittle one approach at the expense of other, wherein like those who are studying scriptures begin to kind of belittle those who are trying to cultivate one-pointed concentration, and likewise vice versa, because as the instructions clearly state that in order to be free from the bondage of a samsaric existence, one cannot do without a union of both calm abiding and special insight. So it's important to kind of realize the importance of both, and then ultimately cultivate a union of both special insight as well as calm abiding meditation in order to free ourselves from the bondage of samsara. So when you first begin to cultivate one-pointed concentration as a meditative practice, then you begin to do it by placing the attention fully on your breath, and when you do this, then for temporary purposes, it kind of stops gradually this can progress to the development of wisdom itself as you keep cultivating this practice. So it is important to realize the importance of both of these two practices, rather than just like focusing on one and like ignoring the importance of the other. So then it is at this point important to realize that we need to we need to realize that all these practices have their own importance to the person who cultivates such practices. Because even when we think about the three vehicles in Buddhism, and when we talk about these three vehicles, then we should not begin to disregard one vehicle, saying that the other vehicle is a supreme vehicle and so forth. Because in a sense, one needs to start from some place in order to kind of gradually progress in our path. So in that sense, it's like a ladder, and the different rungs of ladder. So you can only begin to climb the ladder from the first rung of ladder, and then you can begin to reach the top rung of the ladder. So in that sense, we should not begin to belittle or disregard these different forms of practices, saying that one form of practice is supreme to the others. And similarly, we need to understand that in the context of the world itself, that there are many different religious traditions, and all of these different religious traditions have their own importance in the sense that the followers of these different religious traditions benefit from the instructions and the doctrines in order to kind of transform themselves or to be a better human being. That is the importance of these different religious traditions. So this is very important. For example, when we talk about a medicine, and then can we begin to say that one medicine is the best for everyone? This is impossible. For some people, certain type of medicine works better. For some people, another type of medicine works better. So likewise, sentient beings, human beings, are blessed with different ways of thinking, in the sense they have different mental dispositions and inclinations. So these different religious traditions are effective in that manner, that for some people Christianity appeals more, for some people Islam appeals more. So likewise, they have their own importance. So as the Dalai Lama himself, as well as the many great masters, stress the importance of this appreciation for religious harmony and the importance of the many different religious traditions, we also need to take that into account. And similarly, within the Buddhist context, when we're talking about these different practices, they are like the shamatha meditation practices, or the practice of vipassana, and all these other forms of practices, then we should kind of place equal importance to all these different practices. We should not begin to disregard or belittle one form of practice, saying that this other form of practice is much more supreme than this form of practice. So, as the text suggests, that a union of both shamatha as well as vipassana is very important to really free ourselves from the bondage of existence. Yes. So then, when the classical scriptures, sutras, say that the aspirations and inclinations of sentient beings in this world are very diverse and very expansive, so then we begin to have an appreciation for this kind of teaching when we begin to realize that one food, that many people have different preferences for food and so forth. So different cultures have their own dietary preferences and so forth. And one very kind of relatable example that I can think of from my own experiences, when we go to the market and then we see in the marketplace there are different clothes, different designs of clothes. And then when I myself look at these clothes, then I begin to think like, who would wear such clothes? And who would wear such clothes? Who in their right mind would wear such clothes? But then in the market, if it's in the market, then there are other people who buy this kind of clothes. When I or myself thinks like it's better to kind of throw this kind of clothes in the trash, but there are people who buy this kind of clothes. So from this kind of relatable experience, we can begin to have an appreciation for the fact that human beings and sentient beings have like diverse and different inclinations and aspirations. So likewise, many of these different religious traditions and their doctrines appeal to the diverse aspirations and inclinations of human beings. So then another relatable example would be that the different hairstyles that people adopt. So when we look at these different hairstyles as ordained monks and nuns, because we have our shaved heads, there's not much we do with our hair, then we begin to see that some people like kind of spike their hair, color it different, color it in different shades by spending thousands of rupees. Then this kind of appear very weird to us. And then recently one of my cousins had dreadlocks. So when I saw this, then like it felt like this must be a really uncomfortable thing on their head. That even if you try to wash it, it must be a difficult thing. But he himself like is totally into it. He says, I'm going to keep this for a few months. So from this kind of relatable examples, we can begin to appreciate that human beings have different inclinations, different predispositions, and different aspirations.
가슴 크게 문다고 중요하다 아니게 아니야 되는 얘는 좀 맞추시다. 그래서 갖고 미친이에요. 그냥 그때는 벗었을 때 시작을 이제 그 드레스를 그래서 애들 말좀 모르시 또 아니 나만 치료 계시 아니 걔한테 찾았다 살로 하듯이 너 주인이 들었어. 파마도 좀 내치게 지금 있어. 내치는 맞지. 이나마다 너 찍인 사야 딱 그것도 내 머리 그랬었어라. 근데 또또또 아니 뭐보다 아니 레바로 네 그러라다 이 파리라. 아무튼 단내 근데 어디 주시자 저도에는데 추나 까면 빼고 또 애네로도 여기까지 가고 있어. 그냥 그러라야 기회라.
So recently, me and one of my friends, we went for a walk and then stopped at a tea stall, and there was a young man there who had like dreadlocks up to here. And then when we saw that, then we felt this must be a very uncomfortable situation for him, because there's no way you can begin to comb it, and so even if you begin to wash your hair, then it must take like a lot of time for it to dry. So we asked him, like, do your parents actually, are your parents okay with you like growing hair out in this manner, like having dreadlocks? And he said no. And then we asked him, how long have you been growing out your hair? And then he said 6 years. And he said, like, I want to grow it out for maybe one or two more years. So from this kind of examples, we realize that even though it appears strange, doesn't really appeal to us, people have their own inclinations, and when they are into something, then even if they do not appeal to us, it has its own appeal to people. So we need to have an appreciation for this. As human beings, we are very diverse, and our inclinations are also very diverse. So this is the kind of examples through which we can come to an understanding that sentient beings and human beings do have like different ways of looking at things, different ideas about things, and different inclinations. And now when we bring it to ourselves, bring it back to ourselves now, or if we relate it to here, relate this to the group here, then if we say that we are going to a picnic tomorrow, then there are many different ideas like where we should go. Some would say let's go down. Some would say let's go to the riverside. Some would say let's hike up to the mountains. So from this kind of example, we come to an understanding that sentient beings and human beings really do have different inclinations, different predispositions, and this is very important to realize.
근데 이거 요새 버려. 내가 이제 요새 버려. 그러면 이제 소소기 저거 보면 해도 그래. 그리고 남쪽 배제는 이건 좀 아무튼 시에 참 습관만 저거 보면서 그러나래. 시래고 비전하면 아, 그거를 로제 친구로서 강의 개입니다. 습관도 들고 가능한 속도로 뭔가를 뭐지 돌아. 같이 유나 스스로 가면서 대지 통신으로 대지 통신은 세상에 지주로 남쪽 배제는 아드네 요새 버리 지지는 그게 장시 보이는 거 뭐지 아주 제가 예식에 기존에 기세들 이 판. 같이 그게 또 지금 저거 뭐라. 근데 이게서 스스로 하시기 좀 돼요. 마시기.
So this is very important to like appreciate and realize that human beings have different ways of doing things, different ways of approaching things, different inclinations and different predispositions. And if we have this kind of understanding and this kind of realization, then it's helpful for us to kind of practice forbearance in difficult situations. For example, the kind of discussion we had yesterday about someone being loud in a cafe. So if we have this basic appreciation and understanding that human beings may have different inclinations as well as predispositions, so it might be so we have with that kind of basic intelligence that comes to that appreciation, then using wisdom as well in these situations, then we can approach the situations better, and we can practice forbearance in these situations better. So when we kind of discussed all these kind of examples in the text, the reasoning behind these instructions, it is important to kind of relate this to our own experiences and make it like a relatable thing which we can practice in our daily lives. So as we kind of explored these different examples to come to an understanding that human beings really are very diverse in their inclinations and predispositions. So if we have that understanding and a realization, then in the case of someone talking very loudly in a cafe, then our minds can become more accommodating of such things because we can begin to empathize, or we can begin to understand that maybe it's because he or she is so engrossed in the topic that they are discussing that he or she doesn't realize that they are speaking loud, and maybe like someone is hard of hearing. That's why he's speaking so loud. So we can take all these different things into account, and our minds can become more accommodating. And when if we become more accommodating, then it's easier for us to practice forbearance in these situations. Yes.
같이 하거나야 yap니다. 다 들으러 몸실거라. 대단 들을 때니 아니 강이 마음을 주세요. 참 말이 받아 들리지. 세상 남주디야 야뭐 싫을때 초도 집어지잖아. 강이 거래 있는 것들이 받을 받아야 되는 그럼 미래 됐으면 수수의 개면도 이제야. 세상 따다가 싫으신 분들이 너무 진짜 왜 이랬어.
So then, if we kind of summarize the point that is being made in the discussion on the cultivation of wisdom as a perfection, then to kind of make it more relatable, then this is exactly it. Wherein, if we begin to employ or develop wisdom and intelligence in situations that we feel are difficult or adverse, then we can begin to overcome these situations. We can face these situations and overcome these situations. And so most of the time we begin to suffer, or we begin to suffer because of a lack of wisdom, in the sense we do not use our intelligence to come to an understanding of the situation first in order to overcome it. So, due to a lack of wisdom, we begin to think only about temporary gains at the expense of like long-term consequences. We begin to concern ourselves only with our selfish concerns, and then due to a lack of wisdom, we begin to disregard the consequences of our actions. Even when we know that these are the consequences, we begin to disregard them. So when we look at this, then we realize that many times we do not use that basic intelligence, in order to assess the situation objectively, to overcome that kind of a sense of suffering or unease. So it is important to kind of realize this. So then I think we stop here, and I hope everyone is able to understand the kind of discussion on the cultivation of perfection. And if there are any questions, we'll pick it up after the tea break. Yes.